Good evening. So in the library we have a program of every month running 5 days evening classes alternately by myself and 2 other Geshes. So this month is my turn. So I'm just fulfilling my duty. Okay. And there may not be much that you can get from me, but it's important to work together, study together, reflect together to find out the truth. And then it's up to oneself whether to apply it or not. There's a Tibetan saying, "Phorapchigi lozili punding sumji tudurga." That means the outcome of discussion of 3 people with mediocre intelligence is better than the outcome of thought of a person who is very, very intelligent. So therefore, through discussion, we can improve, we can learn, and the end purpose of such discussion is to really improve oneself. So therefore, I decided to read this 5th chapter, which actually, in a way, is easy, in a way, quite difficult, because there is hardly any commentary. Interestingly, I did some research on this. There are 2 existing commentaries, one by Indian scholar Mepham Shinye, Tibetan scholar Mepham Shinye, and another Jasab. But when you read the commentaries on the 5th chapter, there's really not much commentary. So I may not be able to give much commentary on it, but I will try my best. Whatever is there in this text, I'll read it. And then most importantly, we need to reflect. And to make it more interesting, I put the title, Emotional Regulation and Transformation. Because if I say I'm going to teach the 5th chapter, people have no idea what he is going to speak. So to say that this chapter is very much related to emotional regulation and transformation, I have given that title, which is very catchy, emotional regulation and emotional transformation. And in fact, today in the West, there are so many books, all the books are flooding the market. In the Harvard business books and so forth, there's so much talk about emotional intelligence. There are books which talks about emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, emotional regulation, emotional transformation. So which is very much related to the Buddhist teaching, because the core of Buddha's teaching is how to find long-lasting peace and happiness through one's own personal initiative and mental transformation, which is not easy. But at the end of the day, that's the only way. There is no quick fix solution, there is no shortcut for getting that long-lasting happiness and peace. So therefore, difficult it may be, but there's no other way. So we have to try to do it. I remember very well once His Holiness met a nun, Western nun, and she was quite depressed is not the right word. She was quite discouraged or feeling low, thinking that she was not making any spiritual progress. So she sat next to His Holiness. I was on the other side. So she said, "His Holiness, I've been living in Dharamsala for many years. I don't see much progress. So what should I do?" And His Holiness leaned forward towards that nun, observing that genuine sense of humility. And he said, "See, I'm supposed to be your teacher, but my spiritual progress is also very small." You see, that's the thing. And then he said, "But even this small progress is making me happy, contributing towards my peace." So that's the thing, In terms of ordinary food, No one will say that if I don't get the best food, I will not eat. If you are starving. If you are starving, and just this morning I was watching a BBC documentary where some of these pirates who were caught and imprisoned for many years and had a very hard time. So they were all saying, like in those days, the quality of food is really not the question. The question is that you should get something to eat. So whatever you get, you have to throw it into your mouth to survive. You see? Just this morning I watched that. You see, so when you are starving, then it's not so much about the quality of the food, but you should get something. You should really get something. You should really get something to eat. So therefore, today, our mind is starving. Our mind is starving. And much of the problems, difficulties that we see around in the world is indication of mental starvation. If you don't get food for your body for a number of days, months and years, it will become lean and weak and thin. So similarly, our mind is becoming weak because we are hardly giving any food to the mind. So that's why these spiritual practices, they are food for your mind, food for your spirituality. It is really, really important to see from that light. Because at the end of the day, it's very important to realize that the one that decides your future, one that makes the decision, is your mind. As I've been saying during my past talks also, it is really your mind. It is really your mind which makes the decision, Your mind is your boss. So it is common sense that the boss must be good. So that's why we are saying that your mind must be good. Because you want happiness, you want peace. And one that can give you that peace, that happiness is your mind. That's the main thing. So therefore, it is extremely, extremely important to take care of the mind. So all these Buddhist teachings and other wisdoms from other traditions and religions are aimed towards regulating emotions, transforming emotions, especially the destructive emotions. The 108 volumes, which we call Kanjur, taught by the Buddha, 108 volumes, what do you think they are talking about? They may be saying slightly different things, but in many cases, so many things they are saying again and again. So this 108 volumes of Kanjur and 225 volumes of Tenjur, they are not there to entertain us, entertain you and me, so that every time you turn a page there is a new information, there is a new subject. It's not like that. In one way or the other, they will be saying more or less the same thing. Because the target of all these teachings is how to destroy the negative, destructive emotions. That's the target. If you don't deal with these destructive emotions, if you don't try to reduce them, if you don't try to weaken them, then you may become a great scholar, a good Geshe, or even an abbot, and so forth. But your study has really not served the purpose. So that is not easy, you see, transforming your mind. Practicing is the most difficult part. Knowledge is important, it also takes time, but that is not the most difficult thing. The most difficult thing is practicing it. Seeing the destructive, negative emotions as your enemy, fighting them in the battle, weakening them, Especially one has to see individually. I mean, there are countless negative emotions. You may not be able to fight with all of them at one go. So the best way of dealing with this negative emotion is one, to see out of these countless negative emotions, which I'm sure we all have, which one of these has a predominant presence within you. Because that is going to harm you, that is going to destroy you. So therefore try to deal with that destructive negative emotion. Right? So now I'll give you 1 minute to reflect. I'm not going to talk. I'm trying to change my way of teaching. So I'll give you 1 minute and think which one of this negative emotion has a predominant presence in you. So it's a kind of meditation. You find it out. If it is not so clear right now, you take your time and try to find it. Then probably make a list of all the negative emotions, which one of is most destructive, and put it in the hit list. I'm becoming a little bit violent now, you see. Put it in the hit list. Number 1, anger. Number 2, attachment, whatever, depending upon each individual. And then try to deal with that destructive emotion. Anger, you need to now sit down, specialize on anger. In what ways anger is destructive to you? Go back, read your own life history. How did you deal with different people? When was the last time when you got angry? What did you do at that time? What kind of scene you created? Was it really useful or destructive, as the teachings are saying? You need to confirm it. It's not just saying. Based on your own personal life and experience, you need to find that out and write a list that I call anger very bad because of this. When anger came, my blood pressure increased. When anger came, I lost many of my friends. When anger came, I destroyed my nice cup. When anger was there, I had an accident. When anger was there, I looked ugly. So many things you can find that out. And the reason to find things in that way is so that you are absolutely sure that this thing called anger is horrible and destructive. Right? There is a story at the time of the Buddha. The Buddha asked his congregation of monks, he asked 2 questions. Question number 1 that he asked was, why is it that when two people fight, although they are very close to each other, right in front of each other, when they fight, although they are very close to each other, they have to shout at the top of their voice. Still, the two cannot hear each other in a way. Why is it that 2 people who are standing together face to face, shouting at the top of the voice, saying all the bad things, you stupid, you blind, whatever, They're shouting at the top of the voice, still they are unable to hear each other. Why? The monks could not answer. They were not sure what is the answer. Then the Buddha said, okay, I'll ask you another second question. When 2 people when they like each other, when they love each other, they may be sitting very far. And they are not even talking. Just by a movement of the hand, just by the way one's eye looks at that person, they understand each other. Why? Beautiful story. So the monks again could not answer. Then the Buddha said, when you are angry, even when you are together and even when you are shouting, you don't hear each other because your hearts had separated. You've distanced the connection between the two minds. So you are not hearing in the sense, of course you hear the shouting, but you are not listening. You don't hear what he is actually saying, whether there is any element of truth there or not, you can't hear. That's why both the side just keeps on shouting, none is listening, you see. which means you are not hearing. Contrarily, when two people are in love or like each other, then your mind is close. Your heart is close. So with just small gesture you understand each other. That's why in Tibetan we have a saying, Lame Chin Lab Jang Ne Che. That means the blessing of a lama is greater from a distance. That means the lama may be sitting very far away. But if you have that love, if you have that respect, you are able to receive the blessing. And I know several Tibetans who were living in Tibet, who were dying to see His Holiness Dalai Lama, were longing to get his blessing, but there was no opportunity. So they just think and pray and dream. And believe me, that many of them told me personally that they, in the dream, when they're sleeping, in the dream, they're able to meet His Holiness, see His face, get His blessing, although never they have seen His Holiness before. But then later on, some of them escaped and they said, His Holiness, exactly what they saw in the dream. Now those of us who live in Dharamsala for a long time, then gradually the longing for His Holiness, for your teacher, maybe not so much, because you take it for, okay, I can see him anytime, So you may not get any dream when you are in Dharamsala. It happened with me. When I live here, I don't get dream. But when I go to America, some further places, I get his dream, you see. So it's really like your mind. So it is your mind which can make your destiny, which can mar your destiny. So it's the key thing. If you really want that long-lasting peace and happiness. In a way difficult, in a way very simple. So unless you are able to understand the essence of the teaching, you keep on reading books. You read the whole Kanjur, you read the whole Tenjur, then several other commentaries and books, but you will remain the same fellow as used to be. That's what we see all the time. I see myself like that, hardly any transformation, hardly any change. But I make attempt, you see. So one has to make attempt. Because there's no other choice, there's no other way. Some people who say bad things about Buddhism, or, then I tell them, it's up to them. If they want to say bad things about Buddhism, let them say. Don't get angry. But then that person who is saying that, okay, Buddhism is not so good, he has also to say, what else is there which is good? He might say science. He might say some other things. So again he has to explain why this one is good, you see. So the important thing for us is to make a conclusion. A conclusion. Life is short. That is exactly what Shantideva said in his Bodhisattva way of life. Life is short. There are too many things to know. And we do not know the span of our life. Today may be our last day. It is possible. Today may be our last day. I'm not frightening you. It's the reality. So in which case, what is it that you are going to reflect? What is it that you are going to hang on to? What is it that you are going to take with you? So it's important when you do religious practice, you need to know how to get the essence. How to get the essence. Many of the Buddhist teachers, they give an example by saying, I have only one servant. The Kadamba masters, who are experts in the mind training, they say, I have only one servant. And that servant is very efficient. He does all the job. So similarly, the practices like bodhicitta, wisdom, understanding, emptiness, they are very efficient. If you develop these qualities, they'll do all the job. For example, if you have the wisdom, understanding, emptiness, it will do all the job of removing the ignorance, which is the root of all the negative emotions. So all the negative emotions will be gone like that. Because it is this wisdom which sees the reality, emptiness or reality. And that wisdom, seeing the reality, is the direct counter force against ignorance, which is the misconception of the reality. Similarly, if you have loving kindness and compassion, or bodhicitta, as Buddha in one of his sutras says, if you have one quality in the palm of your hand, you have all the qualities in the palm of your hand. And what is that quality? He says, great compassion. I mean, imagine one quality, which means, compassion means, how nice if all sentient beings are without suffering. If you're somebody who genuinely has that wish, how nice all sentient beings are without suffering, then all other negative activities, destructive activities will cease. How can a person who says, how nice if all sentient beings are without suffering, how can that person bully others? How can that person exploit others? How can that person cheat others? So all other negative emotions will cease, wrongdoings will cease. So in our case, we are not achieving much success because we read a little bit here, read a little bit there, and we are not convinced with anything. And we are not able to make that strong spiritual bond. We are not spiritually, we don't have that hunger for spirituality. I mean, imagine with our regular material food. If your lunch is deprived, if your dinner is deprived, imagine. You will feel restless, oh, I'm hungry, I didn't get my lunch, oh, I'm getting headache, You get restless. But for the mind, it is starving, nobody is feeding. So there is not much appreciation, So how can you change? How can you transform? So there should be a kind of passion. And to develop that passion, you need to see the urgency of these spiritual practices. You need to see clearly the importance of these spiritual practices, because there is nothing that can replace these spiritual practices. I mean, look what is available today in the world. The best we have is science and technology, right? And what did it give? Yes, nice place to live. You don't have to sit in darkness. The light is there. You don't have to walk on foot. You can go by bus or even car or even fly. Yes, many nice material facilities are given. But at the end of the day, story is, by these modern material facilities, are we better as a human being? Are we happier? Are we much in harmony than before because of scientific and technological development? Number one. Number two, How would you like to be remembered after, say, 1,000 years or even 100 years? By that time, we are all gone, of course. The world, the present world, the human beings living now, they are all gone after 100. Imagine, just after 100 years. Imagine how many, 7 billion people. After 100 years, I'm saying, we are all gone. So the population inhabiting this earth at that time will be completely new population, which may be related to you as relatives or which may be others. So the question is, how would you like to be remembered by these people? What is it that we are going to live for these people? I mean, these are very important questions. And if this is talking big, then at least you think, okay, for your grandchildren, what are you going to leave? Just some dollars and some building, does it? Is that all? Or what are you going to leave? And how would you like to be remembered, as I asked? Would you like to be remembered by those future generations by saying, okay, our previous generations, they have polluted the earth, they polluted the water, you know? They invented all the destructive nuclear bombs. Is that how we like to be remembered by the future generation? Any sensible person, if sits down and thinks carefully, then these are not what we are going to live, and this is not how we like to be remembered. It's nothing but natural that we like to be remembered as people having good human values. Don't get surprised when I talk about values. Everything has a value, so why are we getting surprised when we talk about human values? The cow has to have a value, money has value, house has a value, everything has a value. So then naturally we have to have that value, human values. So what is human value? The human values boil down primarily to fundamental good human ways of life, ways of thinking, good human values. So these good human values, which are free from destructive negative emotions, these positive emotions are going to be the savior. These positive emotions can save the world. These positive emotions can bring long-lasting peace and happiness. Nothing else can give you that long-lasting peace and happiness. I mean, if you look around and see people, you know, they're busy going up, going down, doing this, doing that. But most of the time you will see them either buying something or selling something, trying to get something, you know. They spend so much time on getting and disposing these material things. Not so many people are working to equip oneself with these positive qualities. Some of you who attended my talk this morning at Tibet World, I have there this morning said that when a motorcycle breaks, you call a mechanic to fix it, to correct it. Similarly, any car or bus, any other thing, when they break, you call the expert, the mechanics and so forth to repair it. You immediately do it. When your television set is not working, you immediately call the expert to fix it. But what did you do when your life is falling apart? How are you going to fix it? The problematic and interesting thing is we don't even care. That's the tragedy, that's the problem, you know. You may be completely addicted, you may be constantly telling lies, you may be constantly getting angry, but you take it, this is part of the deal. You don't even realize that my life through these destructive emotions are now slowly falling apart. Your families are falling apart. The world is falling apart. But people still talking about, like, look at what is happening in Syria now. Look at what is happening in Iraq. Still people think the only solution is killing each other. And of course, at this stage, probably that is the only solution. Because we reached to this stage because of our negligence of the fundamental human values. So we let these negative emotions erupt at our own cost, peril. The consequence will be, you will have to suffer. So therefore it is not a luxury, but it is a necessity that we must talk about the importance of this positive emotions, not necessarily as a Buddhist teaching or any other religious teaching, but as values that is absolutely necessary for our survival. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls it secular ethics education. Social, emotional, ethical development, universal education. Something that you can, by using your own common sense, will understand that this is important for me. So we need to develop that understanding, but just using one's own common sense. Like you can, as I was saying, that you should yourself judge, take some time and see how good anger is. Let us be fair with all these negative emotions individually. Be fair with, for example, anger, and do a research on that. The positive side of anger, the negative side of anger. Do a thorough research. And through this research and investigation, if you find anger is really good for your health, go for that. Nobody can object that. You can prove and say that scientifically, I found anger is really, really very important, very good. And then write a book. Otherwise, you have to accept the defeat. You have to say, no, anger is really destructive. And at least according to Buddhist teaching, and as far as we know, anger seems to be destructive. It makes you ugly. It increases your blood pressure. It makes you mad, crazy. So many things. It is through anger that we engage in conflict and killing, engage in war. Conflict and killing are not done out of love and compassion. They are definitely done out of anger. You see? So that is the way. If you don't, or if we don't personally sit down and use our common sense and analyze and investigate each of these negative emotions, you will not be able to develop conviction, the will to do it. This morning somebody asked me, yes, Geshe, it all looks good, Our aim is to have that long-lasting peace and happiness. And we also know suffering is not good, but how can we practice? How to do it? Then I said, the first thing that you need to do is you need to develop proper understanding that why these negative emotions are destructive. You need to thoroughly know why each of these negative emotions are destructive. If you know that, then you will stop, or at least make an attempt to not to develop these negative emotions. I give the example of poison. If I say pick up pill of poison and put it in my cup right in front of you and say, look here, I'm putting poison. Okay, anybody want to drink? Please come forward and drink. And I said, unless you belong to that fanatical group. There are fanatical groups who at the asking of the religious instructor, they'll drink poison and die. There are some cults who do this. But otherwise, any sensible human being, when they know for themselves that Geshe put poison, there's really poison, then nobody will come forward and drink that poison. Because now you know this, if I take this, it will kill me. It's bad for me. It's going to kill me. But in the case of anger, we say, oh, anger is bad. But because there's no conviction, we keep on getting angry all the time. We keep on feeding the anger all the time. We keep on giving food to the anger. What is the food for anger? Each of these negative emotions, in order to survive, they need food. The food for anger is unhappiness of mind. When your mind is not happy, then you get angry. Nobody gets angry when they're happy. When you're unhappy, then you get irritated, then you get angry. So therefore, don't give food, which means don't become unhappy. Be happy. So it's really, really important. We need to do a lot of actual homework, exercise, not just listening to some teaching. And asking of people, I give some talks here and there, but I feel very uncomfortable. Why are we talking, and nobody is doing much, Like, for example, if you are to fight an enemy, we have to go to the battlefield and fight, not just sitting here and talking, Oh, this way I can kill the enemy. Oh, I am right now sharpening my knife. And if the battle comes, I will fight. Even if the enemy is coming, if you are doing that, not going to the battlefield, you are not going to win that fight. So these days I've started saying that in Buddhism we say the root cause of all sufferings is ignorance. Right? Right? The root cause of all suffering is? That's what we say in Buddhism. But I've also been telling people the root cause of suffering, one of the root cause of suffering is inaction. Ordinarily speaking. Not philosophically, but ordinarily speaking. Much of the difficulties, obstacles, problems that we face in the society is because everybody wants to enjoy the fruit and nobody is doing the hard work. If everybody comes out, make their own individual contribution for the betterment of the family, betterment of society, the society will change like this. But it's not like that, They always they want to reap the fruit of the hard work of few individuals. And the rest of them, and then you spend the time like that, you see. So therefore, I always tell people, whether it's religious practice or it's, your political persuasion, whatever it is, you need to have that fire in your mind, in your heart. The wish to do something. That wish to do something for others will come if you have a clear discernment of the plight of the people. The situation of the ordinary people, or sentient beings, as we say in Buddhism. The ordinary people, doesn't matter how they present themselves, as a celebrity, as a Hollywood movie actor, or Bollywood movie actor, or as a president, a prime minister, or as a beggar, in whatever they present themselves. But at the core, the reality is they are all subject to death, destruction, aging, illness. As I said, the maximum one can live is 100 years, and there is no guarantee there. Famous scientist like Einstein, he died when he was, how old he was when he died? No, sorry, Shakespeare. When he died, he was just 50-year-old man. So some die when they're old, some die when they're young, some die when they're just able to crawl, just able to crawl. Some die in the womb, mother's womb. So there's no certainty, you see. So that's the situation. And then they look at the body of each and every one of us. This is not made of diamond. It's not made of stone. It's made of flesh, bones, fragile things, you see. And then they look at the machines inside. They're all very fragile. It is because of ignorance we don't discern all this. We think everything is perfect, good, But if you sit down and look carefully, then there's every reason to take very special care about your body, which means what you eat, what kind of clothes you wear, what kind of thinking that you develop. So with this kind of Buddhist understanding of oneself, one's mind, you will take extra measures to take very good care of your health, because inside it's so fragile, so vulnerable. So if you eat wrong type of food, you will be gone quickly. You will quicken your death, you see. In your hand, it's in your hand. When we talk about age, there are different types of age. Chronological age, which we start right from the birth, then we count chronological age. Then there is a biological age, which is very much dependent upon how you look after your body. Then there is a psychological age. In some cases, because of your psychology, your mental attitude, people, even when they are 80s or 90s, they look very healthy, very fresh, very smart, because of their mental training. In other cases, even when they are in their 40s and 50s, their mind stops functioning, you see. So the psychological aging, biological aging, these are very, very much dependent upon how you live your life, what kind of food you eat, what kind of thoughts you develop, and so forth. So therefore, everything is more or less in your hand to get that long-lasting happiness or not. So therefore it is important to, some people say that at the end of the day, the important thing is that you be a nice person. So why should we bother our head studying all this complex philosophical text, Because at the end of the day, the issue is be a nice person. So I can be a nice person without studying this complicated texts. Many people make such a statement. But that is wrong. Yes, it is true. The most important thing is to be a good person, but you need to know how to become a good person. Good person doesn't mean that you sit there without talking and remain like an image, In one of the stanza in a sutra by Buddha himself, he says, don't do anything that is negative. Do everything that is positive. Completely transform your mind. That's my teaching, you see. He said, don't do anything that is negative. Okay, understandable. Do everything that is positive, yes. Now how would you do it? Completely transform your mind. Meaning until and unless you train your mind, you study, you will not know how to develop the positive emotions and how to remove the negative emotions. So that's why he made the third statement, completely transform your mind. Now transforming your mind means understanding this hosts of negative emotions as well as the positive emotions. And then accordingly how to nurture and cultivate these positive emotions and how to do away with these negative emotions. So there's a lot of work, you see. And in Buddhism, it is said that the root cause of suffering is ignorance. There's nobody who wants to say or who wants to experience suffering, but we are suffering. Why? Because of ignorance. There are things that we can do and get happiness, but we are not doing. And why we are not doing? Because we are ignorant. If everybody wants, some question has been asked by saying, if everybody wants happiness, then why people are not happier? People are not happier, not because they don't want happiness, but because they don't know how to be happier. Because their mind is controlled by ignorance. I have seen people who are repeatedly committing certain wrong things, negative things. So sometimes I wonder why they are continuously doing this, when it's so obvious to me that this is not good. Say smoking or whatever. But people, until and unless they start experiencing the obvious suffering, they think it's okay. That's the problem. Until and unless we see the actual suffering, we think, okay, drink okay, smoke okay, fight okay. So through all these activities, when you yourself has become a victim, only then you realize, oh, I should not have done this. This is what we are seeing today in the world, I mean, look at the conflicts between two nations. In the beginning, when somebody tells them that you solve this problem through negotiation, through dialogue, they say, no, we cannot negotiate, we cannot dialogue. He's my sworn enemy. There's no way I can discuss this with this person, The only thing I must do is eliminate him or her, the enemy. So then they start fighting. That's what we see repeatedly. Then they start fighting, then having killed thousands and thousands of people on each side, having destroyed billions worth property, buildings and so forth. Then when the leader's life is in threat or something, then they say, ceasefire. How stupid we are. If you are somebody who is really bold and have the wisdom, right in the beginning, as we say in English, a spark that is extinguished in time saves a forest fire. You see? I mean, completely crazy, insane. Out of insanity, we are doing all these destructions. So therefore you can clearly see the magic and mystery is in our own mind. And if you know how to handle this mind, take care of this mind, whatever be your situation, you will be happy. Or at least relatively happy. I told you this story of a person from Thailand who went for fighting at a border area. So before he goes there, he tattoos his body, does a Buddhist ritual, thinking that he will be protected. Then he goes to fight. Unfortunately, at the border, the enemy catches him, cuts both his legs, both his hands. But somehow he did not die. He came back. Later on they made a documentary. I saw this documentary. Now look at the story, interesting part. So some people come to interview him. The television, the camera was there. Said, okay, you went to that fight with the belief that you will be protected by this Buddhist tattooing and ritual. So now in the fight you lost both of your legs and arms, so what do you say? So this person, without hand, without leg, looks at the camera and says, I am still alive. Imagine, this is called mental attitude. You see? He's not saying that now I don't believe in Buddhism because I lost my hand, lost my leg, although I did this ritual and tattooing my body. He's not saying that. He maintained his optimism. He said, yes, I lost my hand, lost my leg. But the most important part of human being is not the hand nor the leg, it is the mind, the thinking. I'm still alive. That's what I'm saying. If you have that right, positive attitude, whatever be the situation, you can save yourself, you can protect yourself, you can maintain that sanity. And if you don't have that, then as we are doing in ordinary cases, your eyes are intact, your hands are intact, your legs are intact, you have things to eat, you have a place to sleep, but still complaining. Still living as if you are blind. Still acting as if you are without hand because your hands are not helping anybody. That's the thing, you see. So, removing these destructive emotions and maintaining positive emotions is a very, very crucial factor. Okay, time goes very quickly. So I have not even started reading the book. I mean, reading the book is not the problem, okay? So we need to get something. So I urge you to find out which one of your negative emotions has a predominant presence and try to reduce it. Then you will see the efficacy of Dharma. But if we keep on talking, generations have spoken about Buddhism. And if you do this as your part of the deal, part of the regular business, yes, you can do, it's okay, you feel comfortable, okay. But you will not see any dramatic change. Right? Any questions before I stop?
Could you please tell us something about your view on the strong spiritual bonds? Strong spiritual bonds with each other.
Strong spiritual
Bonds.
vows.
The bonds, you see. Am I pronouncing?
Bonds, spiritual bond. I may not be using the right word. Spiritual bond means that you have this strong feeling for the need to do the spiritual practice. Your mind and heart should be into that. Just like study, Some people, when they study, within a short time, they make almost like quantum leap, big progress, because they are focused. They are in it. They are interested. When you are interested, you easily learn. You easily remember. You go around finding the meaning, whatever. So you learn things in a short time. But if your attitude towards your spiritual practice or your study is lukewarm, yes, I have to study because I'm giving my parents are giving my fee, or the Central Tibetan administration is giving my fee, or I have the opportunity, so I have to do this, So when everybody goes, you also go, you're sitting there. And when everybody stops, you're stopping there. But there you have a very lukewarm attitude, not genuine interest. Then there will be not much progress. That's why I'm always saying there must be fire in the heart. Because it's the fire that moves you. As I always say, that knowledge is not something to be pegged in the corner of your mind. It should be something that colors your emotion, that makes you move, get up, go and do things for others. That's called knowledge. It's not equal to information. We should not become like computers. Computers can also get a lot of information. But with all this information, the computer will not move and go and do things for others. But in the case of actual knowledge with the human beings, by this knowledge you should be so inspired that, yes, this is so important, I will do it. That kind of fire must be there. Only then you will be able to bring about changes, whatever it is. But if you remain lukewarm, okay, it's good. Then what you are practicing is called feel-good practice. It makes me feel good, but there's no stamina. It's like half sleeping, When you half sleep, it also makes you feel good. But there's no fire, there's no energy, there is no alertness, there is no awakening. So waking up is what we needed. Waking up from the slumber, sleep in ignorance, right? And you can do this with the recognition that I am so lucky. I'm a human being, not a dog, not a cow. I have this big head, big brain. I can think, I can do. Imagine if you're born as a cow and dog, nothing you can do. You take those cows and dogs and put them in front of His Holiness Dalai Lama and ask him to give Guha Samaja initiation. We sometimes believe that it will have positive imprint. So that's all what we can expect. Maybe there is a positive imprint, but nothing will happen. So imagine if you're right now one of these dogs and cows, what will you do? Nothing you can do. So therefore lucky. Even among human beings, how many people are there who have access to such precious teaching? Who have interest to such precious teaching? Many, their interest is somewhere else. Not like this kind of teaching. They may be thinking, go for a walk, make organ. It's much better than sitting there for 1 hour and listening to this stupid Geshe Lhakdor, So if you don't have that luck, it will not happen, you see. So that's why the definition of Tsundu, Tibetan word Tsundu, out of the 6 perfections, the 4th is called Tsundu. Tsundu means, literally speaking, Tsundu means effort, perseverance. But the definition that is given in the text is not just perseverance or effort, but it means delighting in virtuous practices. Such a beautiful description. Delighting in doing good things. Delighting, you see. When you have this delight, joy, as I already explained, in whatever you are doing, then you can easily learn it. It's really like sitting with your very close friend, who after many years you are meeting today, your long lost friend. If you are meeting that person today, your heart is full of delight. Wow, my very old classmate or friend, let's go for a cup of tea or dinner, lunch, whatever. And you have no sense how the time is flying, You are so happy. Because time is time. The duration is same, but whether time is flying or not is dependent upon how you are experiencing it. When you sit with your sworn enemy, the time duration may be same, but you will be constantly watching your watch, saying, oh my goodness, time is still, you see, still 1 hour to go, things like that. Because your mind is reluctant, you see. So therefore, for those like look at His Holiness Dalai Lama, how busy he is. But whenever he has the time, he goes to the practice. I had the great luck of working in his office for 16 years and also got opportunity of sitting sometimes quite close to him to watch some of his activities. He gets up at 3:30. Doing his prostration, meditation, reading scriptures. And as a result, how many millions of people getting benefited from his thinking, his teaching, his way of life, you see. So you have to have this joy and delight in doing good things. Okay? Any other questions?